Once we have established the activation of all of our systems, which is the first step to being well and healthy, the next step is to build. And as I work with my clients, that it's very important to understand that in this process, activating and building, they can kind of go together in a lot of ways. As you're activating, you are essentially building, but there's a little bit more to the building process. So today I'd like to go through that and talk about that as part of the common denominator of health that I work with my clients on is really dialing in and meeting them where they're at with their foundational pieces. Their foundations of health that I like to discuss with my clients is there's just a few basics that every human body, every cell of your body needs in order to function properly. So looking at that, once your elimination channels are activated, you're mentally prepared and activated, emotionally and energetically ready to make these changes, then it's a matter of looking into what fulfills your health on a cellular level is going to constitute what the building blocks, I guess. So I guess I want to go to looking at it on the cellular level. Looking at the cellular level, looking at the health at a cellular level, every cell of your body, once it is created and it comes to a point where it gets designated, shortly after it's created, it's designated as whatever cell it's going to be for the remainder of its life. Whether it's going to be a heart cell, a circulatory cell, a digestive cell, a brain cell, wherever it's going to go, is designated. It has that designation. As soon as that's determined, then there is something amazing happens. It kind of goes into its DNA Rolodex and says, okay, I'm a brain cell. This is the recipe of health that I need. So immediately it knows what percentage of calcium versus magnesium versus water versus all the other nutrients it needs in order to function optimally is going to then create those receptor sites or hairs on the membrane cell wall to attract and draw in to itself exactly what it needs. So if you've ever baked anything or cook any food and you follow a recipe, even if it's something sweet and you have to add a pinch of salt, a lot of people are like, why do we add salt to something sweet? But if you don't add that salt, what happens? Typically the recipe doesn't turn out. Well, same with your cellular health, right down to the cellular level. Every cell then knows exactly what it needs and it creates the magnetization or these little hairs or receptor sites that pulls it in. So they're out there, they're looking for what it needs. So it's a matter of providing the body the nutrients that it needs so that it's readily available for the cells to take in when it needs it. So thinking about that, what is your diet like? Are you eating the right foods? And that's like a whole nother class. Food is medicine, but really that's part of the building process, is making sure that you're putting the right foods with the right nutrients in there so that you have the right resources to fill those recipes so your cells stay healthy. Another way I like to look at it is those little receptor sites that sprout from the cell based on what it needs is like a parking lot. Unlike the parking lots out in public places that you drive your car to, most parking spaces are exactly the same size and in uniform, so that you can pull in your car, if need be. But in any parking lot that you see or you come across, there's different conditions that parking lot could be in. For one car that pulled into the parking space could have taken up 2 spaces, and it doesn't leave enough space for you to park in your car to the one that should have been open. Or else there might be, it's a nice smooth parking lot everywhere else, but there's one parking spot it's kind of crumbly. The cement is cracked and there's a lot of problems, or there's something kind of, some trash in it, or there's some kind of debris that kind of makes it unparkable. Okay, so then you move on and keep going to the next spot. Well, that analogy, looking at your cellular health and the importance of us building our health on a cellular level, is that how healthy and how healthy are our receptor sites? For one, are they all working and functioning? And I take a look at that as a naturopath. I take a look at that with minerals, and there's different ways, I guess, looking at it and fixing it and helping it if that's needed. But going back to that, every cell receptor site is not necessarily it's not all uniform in one shape. It is designed and developed to magnetize and pull in exactly what it needs, and every molecule, whether it's a mineral or a vitamin or amino acid or protein, whatever it's needed for that cell, that receptor site is very unique and different because it only wants to hold just what it's supposed to get. So if it's healthy and active and it's looking for the right nutrient, are you feeding enough in there to fill that spot? Are you filling your parking lot, these parking spaces on your cell, with the right nutrients? And that's the important thing, is that we're wanting to build and nourish your cells, giving it what it needs. But say, for instance, you are only taking vitamins, you're not doing minerals, or you're, not taking anything at all, or there's a lot of, missing pieces of your recipe. So there's vacancies. There's these receptor sites that are like, okay, I'm looking for magnesium, but there's no magnesium to be found, so it's just kind of hanging out there. And the problem is then, if you were to bring in, for your diet or what you're putting in or on your body, there's chemicals or heavy metals or, other toxins. They can come floating around, and they may, they can be that guy that parks in, covers up a couple spots. It's like, I don't really care if I fit. And it goes in there. And then you happen to take a supplement. You happen to have the right foods, and the right mineral or vitamin comes along, and it can't park there. It can't dock. It can't go into the cells because it's blocked. So looking at all of those pieces and thinking about what I just said, what are you filling your parking lot with? Is your parking spaces full of all the right stuff? If it's full of all the right stuff, the heavy metals and toxins that come around, there is nowhere for it to fit, so it keeps going. Or is it full of those people who block 3 or 4 spots, or make it hard or damage it? If it's not fitting in correctly and it kind of goes in there, it's kind of squeezing in a square peg in a round hole. It's going to leave some, scraping, bending it, potentially breaking the receptor site to a point where if something else comes in that's supposed to be there, it's not going to be able to fit anyway. But the good stuff is going to bypass all those spots because it doesn't really feel right. It doesn't look right. So it's going to keep going instead of parking where it's supposed to. So hopefully that all makes sense. But that's basically looking at your cellular health. How healthy are your cells? Are they able to take in what they need to? And are you filling those spaces with what it needs, with each piece? You can't even leave one empty space, or else something's going to get in there that shouldn't be. And that's going to diminish the health of that cell. So when I'm talking about one of my clients with the building of their cells, there's a couple different things that I look at for building a healthy cells. There's the time of year you're born that can indicate a weakness in taking in certain minerals. And I think we'll go into that a little later, but there's cell salts, homeopathic cell salts that actually can help come in and remagnetize and reactivate. So it's part of the activation process, but it activates and opens up those cells so that those parking spaces are now readily available to take in and ready to take in what it needs. So step one is activating them with the cell salts, but step two then is adding in the minerals then and making sure you're adding in the resources to fill those spaces, the right resources. But there is another side of things, like if the damage has been done to the other receptor sites that are not minerals, vitamins, cannabinoids, amino acids, water, those cells, receptor sites can be damaged by the toxins and the heavy metals and chemicals or whatnot. So a way to fix that is with the use of essential oils. Bringing in some essential oils, you want the oils that have the phenols first. The property phenols, or they're the hotter, spicier properties of the oils. That will go into your system, and the phenols will blaze a trail, basically, but it will burn off and clear off anything that doesn't belong. So knowing that, if you're full of toxins, and it's not even necessarily toxins, it's the wrong foods that have the gluten, which acts like drywall paste, can just, put a putty or a plaster over those receptor sites. So the phenols will go through and clear all that off, and burn it off, and make way for the next step, which is the sesquiterpenes. The sesquiterpene essential oils are the higher frequency oils. They can go in and then repair the damage done. So kind of triggering or stimulating the DNA in the cell to say, hey, you need to redo this receptor site and get it ready to do what it's supposed to do, and you need this part of your recipe. So it will do what it needs to do and pull together the right tissues, the right stuff to repair the damage. And then you have the monoterpenes and the essential oils that can go in there and reprogram them to say, okay, now that you've been cleared and you've been repaired, now it's time to understand your job, going into that recipe and saying, okay, you are to pull in calcium, or you are to pull in the amino acid or the protein or the nutrients, whatever it is that they needed. It kind of helps it to remember and kind of opens up that file in the DNA to say, hey, here we go. This is what you need. So I want a 3-step process there, but whether it's the cell salts to help with minerals or the essential oils to help with all the rest of the cells, it is essential to get all your receptor sites working and active, but along with building and supplying the right nutrients and all of the nutrients that your body needs. So there's that. And in this course, we're talking a lot about parasites, and the parasites can wreak a lot of damage. They can they'll eat away at your nutrients and kind of steal some of the nutrients away from the cells, feed off of it, but then they can also damage some of those receptor sites as well. There can be the cause of some of that damage, which then can cause a lot of other health issues that we will talk about. But ultimately, so that's kind of where it's so important to build and nourish your cells so they're strong enough and can handle, if all the parking lots are full, even have all the right nutrients. Once it has captured those, they're going to keep using it, but if keeping those receptor sites full, then the parasites will move on and look for something else. And ultimately, if it's a less favorable environment in your body, if let's say, okay, let's go back a little bit, with a healthy cell, it's going to radiate the right energy, the right frequency throughout the space to say, I'm healthy, I'm well, and there's a vibration that goes through that space. It's going to repel the parasites. Rather than if it was in a weakened state, parasites' jobs are help to decompose as part of it, along with the insects in this world or whatever. But the parasites inside one of their main purposes is to help you decompose, which is kind of gross if you think about it. But it's basically, that's why they rob you of the nutrients, and they're kind of a thief in a way too. But they will eat away at your cells, and but what we want to do is if it's a weakened state, as I was saying, that then it attracts the parasites to come in and do more damage and kind of set up shop. So it's vital and important to not only activate but build and have the resources available. So what are those resources? What are the foundational pieces that I referred to? And I mentioned a few of them a couple times, but there's the first one is water. That is the number one essential ingredient to all your cells. We, as human bodies, should be made up of 80% water at least to keep things flowing and make things more, your blood cells be more fluid and not sticky. But all your cells and even your digestive tract having that fluid to be able to keep things flowing and circulating. Your lymph system, every system of your body requires the water. But those cell receptor sites, there's a certain percentage of them that are looking for those water molecules. So having enough water. With the water, there is, I always have to teach my clients the importance of how to drink water. Making sure you're sipping it through the day. You're getting half your body weight in ounces per day. And in order for the water actually to get into the cells, part of that recipe is the ratio between sodium and potassium. Those two minerals are essential to help keep the water balanced inside versus outside the cell. And so if there's a deficiency in one of those minerals, then it's gonna hinder you in taking the water into the cells or keeping enough out, and kind of having that water balance. So making that kind of ties back to those cell salts, making sure that all your receptor sites are able to take in the right minerals, but then also then making sure that you're supplementing if need be to making sure that you're getting the right minerals. So that's part of it, but that's part of the water kind of tied in. Going into that, the vitamins and minerals are the next foundational pieces. Most of my clients, when I first meet them, they're doing vitamins, but they're doing maybe a la carte versions. I'm taking a vitamin B and I'm taking a vitamin D, or I'm taking a lot of vitamin C and maybe some vitamin Bs. Okay, well, if you're doing it a la carte, every vitamin has a list of benefits that are what we need. However, the vitamin by itself, you're going to absorb and experience maybe a fraction of those benefits if it's all by itself. It's essential to have all of the vitamins together as a foundational piece. We're talking about making sure every cell has those resources available from head to toe. Every vitamin is needed somewhere in the body. And different places of the body require the combinations of different vitamins in order to get to where they need to go. So you're shortchanging yourself and shortchanging your foundational health by only doing a la carte version vitamins. So I always suggest and get my clients on a good multivitamin first and foremost to get that foundational piece, to fill every recipe throughout the body of the resources that they need. So a good multi is essential every day. And then we look at later down, once you get your foundational pieces built, there is a direct support step that, depending on what your lifestyle choices are, what your chronic issues are, what your, genetics, kind of predict, what else is going on in the body. Do you need extra vitamin B or extra vitamin D? There are some cases that you do once you have your foundation strong enough and the recipe of health all filled in. There might be some extra additional support that's needed. Then you do some a la carte versions, but on top of your multivitamin is that foundational core piece that's needed for vitamins. But they're also then understanding that vitamins are half of what we need, as far as they're considered the construction crew. The construction crew that can build new cells and repair damage, but the construction crew by itself is an expensive crew if it doesn't have the other resources that they need. The other resources are the minerals. The minerals is the lumberyard. they're essential to go along with the vitamins. And again, not just calcium, not just magnesium, not just a la carte version. You need the whole list, the whole gamut of different minerals based on, because there's different recipes throughout your whole body depending on what type of cell it is. So you want to feed and nourish and build your blood cells so they're strong enough to putting off that right energy throughout this field so that it repels the parasites. Going back to those parasites, we don't want to feed them any more than we have to. We don't want them in there. They are a natural thing in this world, and we will contract them in one way or form or another, and I'll go into that later on in another video. But we can protect ourselves, protect our cells, protect our bodies from them setting up shop or thriving in us. We'll eliminate them naturally if we've done the right steps and have prepared our bodies. So this is part of it. So going back to the foundational pieces, the water with the right minerals, it's essential. Drinking enough, but not drinking it throughout the day. The vitamins, making sure it's a multi. The minerals a lot of times too, and it's kind of taking a little step back. With the vitamins and the minerals, it's important to know maybe your blood type, whether you're able to break down the vitamins and minerals the way you need to. There are some factors that come into play where vitamin B's, it might be essential that, whether you can methylate it or not. The methylation process is the breakdown of vitamin B's, and some blood, some bodies, some chemistry is not able to, so it's important to have a naturopath work with you and figure out, dial in and see, is that an issue for you? If you're just taking vitamin B's but they're not methylated, your body might not be getting any benefit whatsoever. So it's a matter of, if you need the methylated, just making sure that you're getting some of that as well, and making sure that if you need it or not. Vitamin C comes down to the blood type. There is a difference between blood type O's do far better and gain more benefit from vitamin C if it's in the form of rose hips, where or blood type A's can do the citrus flavonoids and just the regular vitamin C. So in most cases, not all, there are always some exceptions, and it just depends on what you got going on. But that is where a naturopath comes in and helps you dial in to figure out what's right for you in these situations. Now the minerals, same thing. That you want to make sure that you have them all, but you want to make sure that they're in a bioavailable, readily usable forms. And when my go-tos or my favorites are the liquid vitamins that we have here through Nature Sunshine. One of which is one of which is a mineral chi, and the other one is ionic minerals. The mineral chi is the Chinese magical ones. I want to say Chinese magical ones because they have the right frequency in the solution, the vibration in the solution, along with the right minerals that actually will help open up all your electrical channels, your electrical pathways that the Chinese understand completely, the acupuncture meridian lines. So they have a way to open that up based on the frequency of the minerals. So that's kind of an interesting and awesome mineral selection. But then the ionic minerals are more from the ground, the fulvic and the humic acids from the ground that actually help mineralize in a different way. And they actually has an acai berry taste, or with acai berry. But either way, they're really essential and have everything that you need to build the mineral base. So with that being said,